March 10th to order. All join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presentation, MHS Student Advisory. Welcome, Miss Beebe.
I'm short. I'm Alicia, most of you know that, and today I'm going to be talking about the leadership meetings I attend with Mr. Riley in his office during lunch. We get lunch. It's a great time. So it pretty much, sorry, I'm pretty sure it's bi-monthly, right? I think it's bi-monthly, if I remember correctly. Ms. Brent does a very good job of just telling me when to show up, and I show up. And it's pretty much school leaders, so most of the people from my class, like office positions, are within this committee, and there's like probably 12 of us, from freshmen all the way to seniors, in variety of different like backgrounds, like people that don't just speak English, that like are, everyone's pretty much represented within this like committee. We call ourselves the Student Advisory Board. Pretty cool. So we talk about different things, like definitely our voice, like in the school, and different issues that Mr. Riley brings up. We give kind of like our opinions on. So at our most recent meeting, we discussed the topic of like race and how it should be addressed within the school and with teachers. And we've also talked about how we feel about like the vape posters that are up within the school. We always usually have positive feedback most of the time, especially when we talked about the like STEM programs and like all the freshmen like Panthers. It was kind of cool to have like the freshman like perspective and my perspective, because I was in STEM. So I loved STEM. So to hear them kind of give their feedback about the STEM program to me throughout my 4 years of high school was kind of really cool. It's just really good to have a voice and to know that our voice is being heard throughout like the school, which is really good. So yeah.
Of course. So, Alicia, I think recently, didn't you attend for some of the student leadership conference?
The one in Hyannis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm on student council as well, and I went to a leadership conference this past week. It was Wednesday, Thursday, and we came back Friday. And it's pretty much leaders like from all over the state within student councils, and we do different workshops to build our leadership in different ways, because all different leaders are represented at this conference. And we pretty much just talked about like leadership and different things like that.
And I'm asking because I think you've done a number of these different things. Like I think you did Mass Star last.
That was Girl State. That was Girl State.
Girl State.
Yeah.
Sorry, Girl State. But it's nice to see that you've had multiple opportunities. And if I remember correctly, you're heading on to study what?
Political science or American politics on a pre-law track.
Right. So leadership opportunities. So I guess I was trying to pull that out of you, is that you've had a lot of different opportunities that the schools provided, that
Yeah,
you could take different paths and find your journey, but you've really been able to get some good base experience to understand whether you want to do something and or how you want to go about doing it. So
Yeah.
do you feel that?
Yeah, and even though like I loved STEM, but I just knew like science was math, not my thing. But I definitely learned very valuable skills from our STEM program that I would never want to change. Like I loved it.
And I'm guessing also, just with different conversations I've had around the table, is like the group needing to handle working with different groups of people that you've learned through like your STEM program, that you just have to step up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be challenging, but it's always a good time.
Good. Thank you. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
to hear of all the opportunities you've got.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bergeron.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Tonight, in the school committee packet, there's a draft of the fiscal year 21 school year calendar for 2020-2021. The draft calendar has school starting on September 2nd, 2020. August 31st is September 1st will be professional development days for the district. November 3rd and January 19th will also be professional development days with no school for students. Next year, I'm advocating for 4 half-days to be added to the calendar for the following purpose: to create a grade-level common planning time for the entire district on a quarterly basis, to focus on creating and sustaining common educational experiences for our students. As with most of the requests I've made to the committee, this came from multiple discussions with our faculty, and I'll say especially from our 5th grade faculty, on trying to create and have common planning time for the entire grade. With this change, we would have 6 early release days next year. I also took some time to review the calendars of other districts in our geographic zone, and here's what I found. Hudson has 6 early release days. Northborough, Southborough has 2 early release days. Framingham has 11 early release days. Westborough has 9 early release days. And Sudbury has 17 early release days. Redistricting. Oh, and I should also mention that on September 1st of next year, there will be a primary. And because we don't have school on that day, that alleviates that issue for us. We just might have to get creative in where we move things around. So, but that also relieves a secondary issue for us related to next year's calendar. Redistricting meetings. The following schedule is set for meetings for redistricting in the community. On March 24th, we're going to do a presentation here at the next school committee meeting. The presentation we've been given to the community, we're going to do it here, so that way it's streamed on the television, and anyone who hasn't been able to come to any of our other meetings can access it via the link. Also, on March 26th, we'll present again here at the Deck Center. I want to thank everyone who's come out to listen to our presentations at the Richer, Kane, Jarrick schools, and also at the LPAC meeting. Day on the Hill. I just want to remind you to mark your calendars for Day on the Hill. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. UMass Memorial Ronald McDonald Caremobile. I'm pleased to let the community know that the UMass Memorial will be providing community health services through the Ronald McDonald Caremobile. Once I have dates and times, I'll share with all of our local partners, and I'll make sure it's, especially to make sure it's at the RPOC, so that people can access that. It's a really fantastic service through UMass Memorial. Additionally, I have attached my mid-cycle review for the school committee to consider. I look forward to hearing your feedback. And I tried to use the new rubric identity that we've gone over in the last couple meetings in our workshops to continue to hone down to which standards specifically we're looking at. So I would appreciate any feedback you can give me. And that's my report.
Okay. Do we want to go back? Because I think we have a student who has arrived. Yes, it's
I'm sorry
fine.
if I'm late.
It's okay.
I'm Hattie Parker, the 10th grade representative, and today I'm going to talk about a presentation that the 10th grade received a couple weeks ago from Dr. Kevin Hill. He is the director of addiction psychiatry at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. He's also he's a co-chair of the NFL Players Association Pain Management Committee. And so basically what he did for us is he provided a presentation about drugs and alcohol and the effects it has on teenagers. And it was a pretty good presentation. I thought it was very useful. Something that I thought was interesting that I hadn't really seen before that he provided in his presentation was he talked about how some students use drugs and alcohol, mainly marijuana, to self-medicate, which I thought was a really interesting point of view that we hadn't really learned in some of our classes. It hadn't been brought up because I know a lot of students, especially my peers, struggle with mental health, and I have seen some of them self-medicate through the use of marijuana and drugs, and I had never seen an adult bring that up, so I thought it was really interesting that they're not, it's not only focused that we use it in a recreational sense or to party. He brought it up that some of us are struggling with things and we use it to self-medicate, so I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I think going forward that would be a good thing to bring up in curriculum, to not only mention sometimes we use it to struggle with depression and stuff like that. And then he also, in his presentation, uses examples of students he had worked with, so I thought it was a really good presentation. The feedback that I got from my peers was that it was helpful, and they also liked that he had brought up that part about mental health.
Any questions or comments?
Great.
Yeah, very. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice night, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
as well. Okay. Mrs. Murphy. Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I apologize, my apologies. Any questions or comments for Mr. Bergeron?
Sorry, just one comment was, thank you for the redistricting meetings that you have had. I've attended a number of them and have felt that they've been really helpful. One thing that I did actually want to say, since we are televised, is that the next meeting, the ECC DEC meeting on the 26th, just to make sure that people know that it's open to anyone.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a child that's in ECC or here at DEC or going to be. If you have an interest in knowing more about the redistricting plan, please do come. And I guess I say that only because if you watch some of the chatter that's back and forth sometimes on social media, it seems like there's been some concern that it wasn't necessarily open. And I think it's been great that a lot of people have been coming, but just wanted to reemphasize that.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to thank you for the mid-cycle review and actually your honesty about not necessarily being able to specifically go to each of the schools for that purpose of the walkthroughs and such, because I think you've had a lot on your plate. And
No.
I appreciated that because I think that's leading by example of being realistic about what we can and cannot accomplish, and that it's okay to be able to let those around you know when something hasn't necessarily followed on track, but what you're going to do to make changes to address it. And I really wanted to compliment you on that because I think too often adults, we have a very tough time being able to say when something doesn't necessarily stay on track. And I give you a lot of compliment for doing that because to me, that actually just shows a lot of honesty about what you're doing and trying to accomplish. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments, questions? Okay, now, Ms.
Thank you. The Joint Evaluation Committee surveys all staff annually. Each year, the committee identifies an area of focus based on these survey responses. This year's focus is on educator evidence. On Wednesday, March 4th, members of the Joint Evaluation Committee attended all MEA meetings in the district and shared a presentation focused on evidence submission and expectations. We are encouraging teams of teachers to work on team goals and to present authentic evidence of their progress. District-wide Title I nights. One goal of the Title I services is to increase parent involvement in our schools. On Wednesday, March 18th at 6:30 p.m. at the District Education Center, we will be hosting Social and Emotional Learning, SEL, Connecting School and Home Strategies. During this presentation, we will be discussing what SEL looks like for various situations in the home, including the effects of praise and feedback, the power of our words in shaping behaviors, restorative justice and collaborative problem solving, growth mindset, and the impact of social media. Free babysitting is available for this event. This is the third of these events this year. And we did a session last May, I think, for the first time. It's been very well attended, and people seem to be looking forward to this second session. So I added extra babysitters, and we have the playground here as well, indoor. So we're really excited about this night. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No? Terrific. Okay. Public participation. Anybody? Seeing none. MHS Program of Studies.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Riley, Mr. Padilla to come up and present the program of studies. It is annually reviewed by the school committee, and it was sent under separate cover as a PDF file only due to its size. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us tonight. So if you don't mind looking at the memo that Mrs. Brandt put together, overviewing an overview of all the changes or updates within there, we'll walk through that first. I'm going to invite Mr. Padilla as well to come up for about 5 minutes and talk about a new and exciting program of studies that he's developed at the Hildreth program. I think it's great because it's the first time that we've taken steps to put a program of studies together for the Hildreth program. So feel free, as always, to give us feedback and anything that you notice, because the more eyes, the better on documents like these. It's our public reflection of the courses that we offer and the great things that we're doing, so we always appreciate feedback in order to make them even better. So beginning with the course selection information, I did change the minimum graduation requirements to reflect the new policy that was adopted at the last school committee meeting to 96 credits. And I also revised some of the charts with the thematic teams in that section. One of my questions for the committee, as you're thinking through this, is for the purposes of the program of studies, would you like to see the entire policy put into the document, or to kind of summarize the essential components for students and parents as I did? So think through that, and you can give me some feedback on that. Hey, do you want to go? Good? All right. Also added in the 2 credits, 1 credit per semester for sophomore and freshman thematic learning opportunities. The early college program description page was slightly revised. I removed 1 component that said students that successfully complete English 101 fall semester of senior year will qualify to take English 102 spring semester. We actually have a seamless transition for them, so that line's not really necessary. Students remain in the class anyways, and they just may not at that point be taking it for college credit if they didn't meet the minimum requirements in 101, but as opposed to trying to shift them around within other classes in the department, which can be very disruptive because they're all full year classes. There were some revisions to our AP computer science course descriptions. In history and social sciences, we added in honors Latin American history as well as college prep Latin American history. You can see the principles of biomedical science, which is a component of Project Lead the Way that we added as well for the science department. There are some revised descriptions within the science department. And then there are some courses that have been removed. We continue to offer the AP Physics. We do not offer the AP Physics C. We haven't traditionally had enough students to take that calculus-based physics course. Also, we added back in, as you will see, honors and CP French 1. What we're interested in knowing, because we do have the staff to accommodate a French offering, is how many of our 8th to 9th grade transitioning students would like to participate in that. And we can do that without having a detriment to the rest of the department and the offering, the major offering that we have, which is Spanish. We have a member of that department that's dual certified in both French and Spanish. So we're interested in seeing how many students may like to take that as 9th graders. You can see some of the course changes within the business and information technology department. That was kind of trying to bring us all on par with marketing and entrepreneurship, kind of reflecting the same sequence of 1 and 2 before it went into the more advanced specific coursework. Drawing and painting was split into 2 separate courses for next year. We've discussed this during our budget hearing, but you can see in the music department the addition of our English music learners class. We're very excited about that opportunity and what it's going to bring to our school. There were also some descriptions revised within that department. You can see some of the courses that we have essentially added to our English learner education, although they have always been present within our program of studies. They've just typically existed within the departments that represent those courses. So we brought them over to our English learner section as well, so that they're easy to find as a component of that program. revised our TLC course description, our Essentials program course description. And within the library, or the LMC, we've added 2 courses that Ms. Van Catamaran is going to offer, library research skills and also our introduction to makerspace. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Padilla, unless you'd like to ask questions about the MHS program of studies first, and then we can go to Hildreth.
Why don't we do that first?
Yep, okay.
Questions or comments? Mrs. Hennessy.
Thank you. So relative to the policy, one thing that I picked up that it just could be trying to work through the changes would be the change to world language, where we had changed it that it didn't need to be sequential. So in one place, I think you had it listed as being sequential, and one that was not necessarily sequential, so we just need to make sure that's aligned.
Yeah, and that's my mistake, I think, from when I did some of those
It's-
policy updates with you. I think I accidentally removed where the sequential part was written out, because it should be in there according to Mass Core.
Okay, so that was a discussion that we actually had around the table, was relative to the sequential. So you do want to keep it as sequential?
Yeah, the state recommends that
Okay.
and again, it's for college entry purposes, so that's my mistake. I accidentally, I think, deleted a little too much when I was submitting that to Superintendent Bergeron in the school committee.
Okay, so
I apologize for that.
around the table, we'll then need to bring that back to have an amendment made since we had made that change. Okay?
Mistake.
Next question on that.
Yes.
Dan, is a sequential required for graduation?
That's completely up to us. Because we've adopted pretty much Mass Core as it's written out, I would advise us to do that.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
So we can have a more in-depth discussion about that at some time, since it's been changed. It's a great point. It doesn't have to be for graduation, and there may be cases where we want to make exceptions, so willing to definitely talk through that, absolutely. But removing it was not intentional. That was a mistake on my part.
Okay, so we'll take that back to policy and then know from a full committee standpoint that we'll need to obviously discuss that, but that obviously is going to have to be done fairly quickly because of your time of needing to get this put in appropriately to the program of studies.
Sure, absolutely. Yep, thank you.
Okay. And I believe when you were talking about the thematic opportunities for freshmen, now I wish I could remember all my questions on it. It was something relative towards the options of if you were going to be in one of the musical ensembles, that you could replace some of the semester courses.
Okay. Can I
Yes.
just add something? I think one question, Dan, that came up during the budget workshop was revolving around things like marching band and whether marching band could be a semester course as opposed to being year-long. And maybe that's a question for Mr. Rosenthal that we can go back to and talk about some of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it would be a great opportunity,
Pep band. I think it was more
or,
of a
and/or,
pep band.
and/or pep band, looking for other opportunities of semester music courses. It's been something we've kind of chatted about off and on, and with the wonderful stuff that Mr. Vadron's already moved forward with on the drum thing. I can't say it, but whatever.
Learn the jam?
Yeah, the jam, learn to jam. So, which would be great. And what was the other? Oh, I know. The removal of the honors architecture and design 4. I guess my question is that now somewhat being replaced where more kids are having more opportunities through CAD? Because when I looked at some of the descriptions around CAD and under technology, it looked like maybe more kids are kind of shifting in that direction rather than just strictly architectural and design. And so, again, that could be a follow-up later on. I just was
Sure.
kind of curious because it seemed like there have been a number of students really going down that path of design engineering, and maybe they're just going now in that direction of CAD rather than the honors architecture and design for.
Absolutely. I know that there's a method for offering it, to continue to offer it. I think what Ms. Gill was doing for the sake of the program of studies was representing that we don't have a cohort of students that will be taking 4 next year,
Okay.
even though the opportunity would still be there. So
Okay.
when we had discussions last year, our intention was to try and make sure that the program of studies reflected the things that we were prepared to offer. And I think because of that pipeline sort of shifting hands, different teachers have offered that over the years. And I don't know that we had a cohort going from 3 to 4 for next year.
Gotcha.
So I think it was temporarily removed, but we do have a way of offering that when a cohort wants to take it.
Sounds good. Great.
Well, and I'm wondering in that light, because I know in previous conversations we've had about the program of studies, rather than removing it, maybe for each year where there isn't an offering, just not offered for this, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's always harder to bring something back, I think, but I don't know, I mean, whatever, I guess, leave it up to the principal to decide, I guess.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying, though, because next year, I'm going to come before you and say, it's back.
Right, because now have 3s that want to take 4.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
I just have a quick thing. On pages like 9 and 10, where you have your list of like world languages, do you want to include French at this point?
That's exactly my question.
Because it only lists like levels 1 through 4 Latin.
You have a grid.
Oh, thank you. You know, I overlooked that, so that's, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
On both.
I
of
would
those.
like to include it, absolutely.
Pages 9 and 10, I think.
Yep,
Yes.
yep,
under
I see
world
that.
classic
Yep,
language.
absolutely.
Anyone else? Mr. Crusoe?
Could you elaborate a bit, Dan, on the English Music Learners course?
Sure.
I won't ask you to sing it, but
Clear the room.
I'm not sure I've got page numbers I can read and tell here. You're asking the old man to find the page number.
So the overall goal, aside from the course description that you see there at the very end of the music department's pages, is to try and provide an opportunity for learners of all languages to be able to come together and participate in a performing group. And to do that comfortably, and also do it in a way that really celebrates the various cultures and ethnicities of the students that are in that performing group. It's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our diversity, really demonstrate our diversity.
And who actually teaches the course?
So Miss McNulty, who's our vocal and our a cappella and our choir teacher, is taking that course on.
Okay. Does she have any outside help from other people, like for language, or does she know all of these languages?
So she does not know all the languages, absolutely not, but the support of various departments, especially the EL department, in order to help bring this to fruition. And Mr. Rosenthal and I have had conversations about that to make sure that the course is truly a success. The diversity of this particular course will probably closely align with the diversity that we've seen in our Learn to Jam experience, where Mr. Verdone has done a wonderful job instructing students with various levels of English acquisition. And what we were able to observe through that experience this year is that music is in of itself a universal language at times. And so regardless of whether or not a student has developed fully their English skills, they can still perform and participate when music is at the core of what they're doing. So we're looking for the same opportunities with this course, because some of the selections that they choose may not be in English either, which would present a new opportunity for our solely English-speaking students. But yes, we will absolutely provide support. We want it to be very successful.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say all those nice things about what music does, because that was my life's work for all those years, and it's nice to know that our system still finds that as valuable as it does.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Crusoe.
Sorry, can I ask one thing off of that? So on that same note, though, that you brought up about the English music learners as well as the Learn to Jam, you mentioned performance. Are they going to have opportunities where they can perform? Because I know that at least in the past, recently, they weren't necessarily a part of, say, like our all-city band or something like that. Might there be opportunities, though, for them to have performances available? Because that is something, just like we have our public speaking courses and things like that, it's a great skill to have to learn to be in front of others and perform. So just asking.
Absolutely. I think we're totally open to exploring that and helping to bring this sort of like full circle, right? Because you're in that class every day preparing for a performance. So you really want to bring that to fruition to bring the experience full circle.
Well, and also if we talk about the SEL aspects, this helps in a lot of different ways, of not just from a core education expectation of English, math, whatever. This actually does kind of bring it home in a whole different way. So it'd be great.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the Learn to Jam group did do a public performance at the pep rally.
Yeah,
They did an awesome job.
it was awesome.
Yep.
It was great.
Was.
And the question I would have is, many of those folks probably have never necessarily performed, and what a great opportunity for those kids to get that experience, right? And feel really good about an accomplishment of doing something in front of a lot of different people, right? So,
For the vast majority of them, that was their first high school music class ever, which was awesome. Which is great. Yep.
Perfect. Anyone else from Mr. Riley? No?
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Padilla.
Mr. Padilla. All right. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. Padilla. I'm the director over at the Hildreth program, Marlborough's Alternative High School. So this year there's been a lot of exciting changes happening to the program between different offerings that we have this year, community involvement, the restructuring of new systems in place, new incentives for the kids to get really engaged with, internships that have happened this year that didn't happen last year. So one of the things that I was tasked with this year was really focusing in on creating a program of studies, because it's non-existent at this point, which was exciting because we get to put our stamp on something that is really a good thing for the students to actually feel bought into what they're doing on a daily basis. So a lot of what we adopted into the program of studies are, you'll see a common trend of what Mr. Riley talked about with the high school carries, but we also want to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more flexible in our offerings to kind of meet the needs of an alternative education setting. So for example, in ELA, we have media literature and pop culture and true crime literature. So those are different offerings that are more relevant to current day in getting the kids bought in versus, the typical Catcher in the Rye, The Great Gatsby. Not that those aren't great stories, our kids just don't relate to them as well. So we're trying to be a little bit more creative in offering courses like that while maintaining the integrity of what we have in place currently. In math, we have an integrated math offering that's going to focus in on a multiple level of skills like geometry and algebra. That course is really going to be geared more towards supporting those students who are struggling to pass MCAS, to really hone in on those skills so that they have the opportunity to progress and eventually reach that goal of being able to graduate. So that's obviously the number one goal, is getting these kids into the career field or into college. The other one that I'm really excited about too is an e-hybrid math that we will focus not only on the financial aspect of the adult world, but there's also a budget component that's tied into that. So Dave Mariani, who's our math teacher, does a budget challenge every year with the students, and they have to really take an assignment and work on budgeting for their life, which is really exciting. And what's cool about this class is that it focuses and uses Ingenuity, which is our online platform that we have. So they are the model is taught via their Chromebooks or in a direct instruction, so they can pick and choose the lessons that are being taught. But they also get to experience more of a self-paced college preparatory style learning, which is exciting. Sciences, there isn't much of a change. One addition that we're bringing back to Hildreth is environmental science. And the purpose behind that was not only to streamline and have a flow from the high school to to Hildreth, but it is our goal next year to build a community garden. And part of the environmental science is going to tie into the soil and the roots and the foods that we're growing in the community itself and how that impacts the environment. We're also adopting the principles of biomedical science, which is a fantastic program from Project Lead the Way, that you basically get a cold case and you have to figure out what the cause of death was, and they teach things like blood scatter measurement. And part of it, which is really exciting too for my kids specifically, is that the components of that program show you what you can do with each certification. So with the high school diploma, this is what you can do with an associate's degree and so on. So it gives the kids a little bit more of an opportunity of insight into that field and what opportunities are available for them. World languages, history. History, the two new programs or new courses that we're offering, I'm extremely excited about. One being U.S. history through the lens of immigration. So students are actually going to take the perspective of an immigrant and learn about U.S. history through their eyes, which is a phenomenal opportunity given where we are as a country right now, and as a community specifically, being able to learn about what immigrants went through, and a lot of them can relate to the course itself. So it's exciting, as well as the addition of Latin American history for that department. World languages, we are offering a Spanish culture class next year with a component of international culture. So this is going to be focusing in on how other cultures throughout the world are influenced or seen throughout the Hispanic world. It gives them a little bit of an insight into, for example, Spain. There's a large population of Irish immigrants that immigrated to Spain and Galicia. So they're going to focus in on how there's an Irish community that does Irish step dancing and bagpipe playing in Spain. So it's kind of a cool offering. As well as Spanish gastronomy. So Spanish gastronomy is a Spanish cooking class, and it's going to focus solely on Latin American foods. Currently, right now, Christine Kazarian is our Spanish teacher, and she co-teaches a cooking class right now, or food science class. So I wanted to be able to offer that again to her next year, but more so through the focus more being on the Spanish world. These next couple that I'm going to go through, I'm really, really excited about because it really taps into, or starts to tap into, our vocational offerings for what we are trying to focus on giving the students in an alternative setting. So first is art. Creative arts and mindfulness. So this really taps into a focus in on the mental health side of things and a therapeutic approach to art and the benefits behind it. What's exciting about that course too is I'm planning on having a school adjustment counselor co-teach with the art teacher to help the students find what their toolbox skills are to be able to access them while they're in other classes and not just an art class. So they'll be exposed to a bunch of different tools for them to be able to cope and get through each one of their days or even in life. The other one, too, is the art of fashion. So there's a huge desire at Hildreth specifically for cosmetology and fashion, and without becoming a vocational school, I was trying to get creative on thinking how we could offer something that is more of the cosmetology field or that route without offering a specific cosmetology department offering. So the art of fashion is going to focus on a whole multitude of different topics, specifically just to name a couple. We're going to be buying sketchbooks for students to practice makeup application, learning about nail design, and one of the things too that they're going to be using is they're going to try to partner with the fashion department at the high school, and we are going to hopefully be responsible for creating and making all of the accessories for the fashion show. So the students at Hildreth will be producing materials that will actually be demonstrated for the public to see, which is really exciting. Wellness, these are a couple of changes here. So food sciences, we only offer one class of cooking this year, and there's such a need and an interest in that class that I decided that it would be beneficial to offer more of it, but how could I tap more into it and expand upon the opportunities after high school? So the curriculum that we're purchasing for next year and the courses that they'll be taking will prepare them to become Serve Safe certified, which is essential before they can actually work in a restaurant. So through the progression of this program, it's we have 3 different offerings at different levels, and at the end of it, they'll get their Serve Safe certification, which allows them to then go apply to jobs. And part of this, too, is when they become a junior senior, they'll have internship opportunities where they can go out to the restaurants, and it's our hope that they get hired either in that facility or another community restaurant that's around. There's plenty of them that are here. And then e-fitness hybrid. So that one there kind of popped into my mind this year with the lack of interest in your traditional physical education classes. So I got a little bit creative and started to focus in on the fundamentals of exercise, but then tying that back into like an Xbox and Wii experience so that they could learn fitness and Just Dance. So Just Dance is actually one of our most popular. It's still a movement component, so it still satisfies that state requirement, but it's just done through a technology standpoint. It's just way more buy-in right now for that kind of class. So I'm really excited to continue that next year. And then the last one that I think is one of the most important, and not that they're not all important, but is our life skills program that we're trying to add. So there's 2 different class offerings. One's life skills for the real world and life skills for college and career readiness. The college and career readiness is going to be offered to our juniors and seniors. And that focuses more on resume building, applications, submitting them to do, putting them through a model or a mock interview to learn how to interview properly and answer questions, as well as preparing for college resume building, adding into what you need into your portfolio, et cetera. The life skills for the real world, that one's even more exciting because I'm trying to hopefully get funding enough to convert a classroom into a pseudo apartment. So that the kids have an experience on the basics of life, how to make your bed, how to wash your clothes, how to iron, how to vacuum, etc. But also part of that is going to be budgeting and how to food shop for yourself. So my goal is that life skills class will actually partner with one of the cooking classes to budget and shop for the cooking classes. So part of their goals and activities would be to go out to the community, food shop for the program, and then bring back what they have and look at the budget as if they're preparing for life. So these are some essential skills that a lot of our students don't have anymore. So we're trying to bring that back for them.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm going to go.
Go. I know.
Awesome.
Bravo.
Really awesome first stab, if you will, at a program of studies. I mean, there are just some really nice applicable courses for getting people skills. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Really fabulous. I have to say, it was like one of those times where you're reading through things, and sorry, Dan, because, love your program of studies and everything, but it was really exciting to read through there. There was just some really neat things, and I sent Mrs. Murphy a message, and I was like, woodworking and carpentry, that's really cool that they're going to do something over there. Where do they have something over there that they can do that?
So that's course specifically. So we don't have a course, or we don't have the woodworking tools on site. So my hope is that on Fridays we give community opportunities for students to engage within the community. So it's almost like a community service day that really focuses, one day a week, that focuses in on us being into the community and actually doing these things. So Pat McCall, who does our tech and engineering classes now, my hope is that he would be able to take a group of students who are interested in carpentry, bring them to the high school to experience the woodworking at the high school itself, and through design and things that we need that may be applicable for them to go there. So.
And that's like literally, I felt like that was your weave throughout the whole program of studies. The financial math hybrid, just finding ways, the cooking classes, the Latin American history, the lens of immigration. This is great.
Thank you.
Looks fantastic.
I just want to add that I think you opened up so many opportunities for these kids. And I think some may actually be appropriate to be considered at the high school for some, especially in the wellness area, the options that we've been looking for, because not everybody buys into everything,
Sure, yeah.
even under the Mass Corps. But Mass Corps would take a Just Dance class. So.
Yeah, and like I said, none of this would be possible without Mr. Riley's support. So, he's kind of coached me along the way, and we've kind of collaborated with the content supervisors and Dan himself, and we've been really working hard at getting this up and running and kind of piloting some things this year to make sure that we're ready to go for our next school year.
Terrific, thank you. So, entertain a motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Caruso.
I feel a little bit like Scrooge. I want to say that I absolutely agree with what both ladies said. It's fantastic. Matter of fact, I was wondering if there's room in the life skills class for a fairly older graduate, because I think I could use some of those.
At any
skills,
point in
especially
time,
the
if you
budgeting part.
would all love to come to visit Hildreth, I'd love to have you.
And I'm only asking this because I'm curious. There is, I noticed there was one little section lacking, and from what I previously said, you may know what that was. There's no particular music or performing arts.
Yep, so on those Fridays for the community service and enrichment for the students, I'm really hoping to partner with Mr. Rosenthal at the high school to be able to have someone come down to us or our kids go up to the high school to be able to experience a component of music. We have a lot of connections in the community and people are looking for volunteer work in giving back. In fact, we have an individual that works with Merrill Lynch who comes in on Fridays to one of our math classes to teach kids about indexes and budgeting and really breaks it down. So yes, there definitely is going to be an opportunity for kids to experience music.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the 2 programs of studies, probably with some, minor amendments on, at the high school that we'll need to work a little bit offline on, but I'd like to make a motion to move forward with those.
Seconded. And all those in favor? Those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bergeron.
Thank you.
Oh, we can bring the mayor back.
I would like to
I'm in
put
the
forth in front of the committee our proposed FY21 school calendar draft for your consideration. My recommendation is that you review and take a vote on the calendar if you see fit tonight, so that way we can get this in front of parents as soon as we can. Thank you.
So what is the will of the committee? Do you want to make a motion to accept and then questions, or do you have questions beforehand?
Yeah, I checked it. Or somebody checked. We're actually good.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. You're making the motion tonight? I'll second.
Chair.
I'll second. All those in favor of the
We
20?
have discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I keep.
Look back at the calendar again. I have to enlarge it a second so I can read it. So there are how many, now, when they go back to school, they're like 2 days before they're back on vacation again?
So what we do is, in August, on the 31st and 1st, those will be staff-only days. And then the 2nd and 3rd will be student days, but by our policies and contract, we always take the 4th and the 7th off, which is the Friday and the Monday for Labor Day.
I've always just wondered sometimes the efficacy of doing that, but I understand contracts very well, so that's an easy one.
I can speak to that. I used to think the same way, but having children who are up late every night of the summer, it's a nice way to actually ease them back into a schedule. So I am in full favor, and probably for the teachers too, to ease them back into into a schedule. So it actually does work out.
I was lucky where I worked, the parents never wanted to go to school until after Labor Day. And so the teachers never had to worry about it because the parents would put their foot down, so I just never knew how it worked, but I guess I must notice now that I'm retired that it is a little bit quieter the day before school starts.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Any further discussion or questions? Mrs.
With all of the half days, thank you, do we know if, like, are the Boys and Girls Club on board with providing care for the kids those days?
We can go to them. Usually they're pretty amenable to that. It's something they do for additional fee. But we can go to them and talk to them about it and make sure, that's a possibility.
I know that kids who sign up that attend the Pleasant Street building, they actually don't typically charge for the half-day ones. So I don't know if
Belay
that
to them. That's
might
great.
be, well, because there's usually only been a couple, so I don't know if that would be a change where there would now be, is it 6 or 8?
Well, we're going from 2 to 6. That's a little bit of a,
6,
that's a
so-
pretty significant change for them. So they might have to staff up for that on those days. I'll get that answer and I'll bring it back to the committee at the next meeting.
I just would, if we approve the calendar, I just would like us to make sure that they are notified as soon as possible so that they can make arrangements, because it's kind of a big change.
Okay, anyone else? All those in favor? All those opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergeron, job descriptions.
Thank you. I bring forward 2 job descriptions tonight. The reason I'm bringing these forward is because they were part of the superintendent's budget, which is in front of the school committee now. And these are 2 job descriptions that are new to the organization, although the Director of Elementary Curriculum and Instruction is very close to a position that we had just a few years ago. The Transportation Coordinator is definitely new to the organization, so I wanted to bring job descriptions in front of the committee so you can see exactly what we are looking for when we propose our budget.
Does anyone want to entertain a motion to approve these?
Motion made to approve.
Seconded. Any questions?
Yeah, I have.
Mr. Crusoe?
I read through the job description for the transportation coordinator many times, and the finance coordinator part of it still kind of baffles me. Could you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Sure. There's certain times of the year where transportation has much more significance than others. And there are times of the year while we get things up and running, they wouldn't be getting as many phone calls, they wouldn't be getting as many transportation type questions. So there's plenty of work within the finance office, whether it be conducting data analysis for our Medicaid program, basically conducting reconciliation of accounts, printing reports, and basically assisting Doug with some of the procurement issues. What we're looking for in this position is someone with a little bit more of a background, or maybe someone who's even looking to be a school business administrator to get relevant experience in the school business office. And we think that with the highs and lows of transportation, that there'll definitely be times where they can do more than just the normal transportation, that they'll be able to help us out with more than that.
And my concern obviously was when I looked at, for instance, the qualifications, high school degree or equivalent required, obviously 4-year you prefer, but it just seemed like an odd combination to want them to be able to do all that other stuff as well as.
Well, I think what you're going to find is folks who are looking to break into the field, into the business field, these are the candidates actually that are trying to break into that field, where they have a 4-year degree, sometimes in business studies, accounting, or other area, and they're very much on the quantitative piece of things. They're very good with data. And what this job will do is give them real-life experience in a business office that then they can use to either do a program like Mr. Diaz did, where he did a program to become a school business administrator and gain that that experience to be able to do it. Doug, what else? I mean, obviously this position is going to be reporting to you. So who do you see as like the candidates that could potentially be coming to you for this?
The business part of the job would definitely be important for us, but to find somebody with experience in transportation coordination will also be important for us, and those candidates are very few out there. There's 350 districts, not all of them have transportation coordinators. To get somebody who's going to be good at that specific task is hard, which is why you brought up the high school degree. We don't want to close the door and say that you must have a 4-year degree. Obviously, that would be a preference, but if you come in with experience, I'm certain that my office can train you on the finance aspect of the job. But both will be important, and the superintendent is correct that there are some times of the year, especially once the position is established after the first year, where we could utilize some downtime in the finance office for additional reporting.
The only concern I had was that transportation being the bugaboo that it's been, is that's really the part of the job I would hope we were concentrating on more at the beginning. That was my concern.
Yes, in fact, we've discussed the first year of the position. This person will likely primarily focus on getting our transportation off the ground. So we have a lot of processes that we have to create from scratch because we don't have the position in place right now. So that first year will likely be 100% or close to 100% transportation, and then we'll ease into the finance aspect of the job.
Another important thing for us is to start to cross-train and have folks who can do multiple positions and back each other up. So especially in the central office, we want people to be able to eventually cross-train in multiple areas, so that way if for any reason there is like a leave or something, that someone can jump in and help out, and we don't lose any steam.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? No? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Carries. school committee approval to submit the budget for public hearing. Mr. Bergeron?
Thank you. As we have had our our workshop on the superintendent's budget, Doug and I are at the point now where we have to ask the committee if we can post a public hearing for our budget. And we would propose that our public hearing be at the next school committee meeting on March 24th. So at this point, what we are asking for is you to authorize us to post the budget for a public hearing, and at this time, we'd answer any relevant questions if there are any left for the budget.
Motion to hold a public hearing on March 24th.
Seconded. Any questions, comments?
I'm sorry, all of a sudden I woke up, sorry about that. Just curious, what does the public see at that hearing? What do they get to look at? Because if they're looking at this, it might be like me getting a little cross-eyed.
So we post our budget publicly on the website. We've already done that. The public hearing is to solicit input from the public in favor or against the budget.
I mean, if they wanted to look at something and thought there was something they wanted.
That is all online.
But I mean, is it on, I guess I'm asking, what does it look like online? Does it look like this online, or
Both
is
of
it
those are
Both of those
online?
are.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Boy. Okay, just was curious. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of posting? Opposed? Carries. Reports of school committee subcommittees. Anything to report? Okay.
Wait a minute. Mrs. Ryan, you're not gonna update everyone on this wonderful school?
Aren't we updating them all the time?
You're not
On our
updating the
visit?
public.
On our visit? Would you like to update everybody on our visit?
Sure.
Ms. Ryan?
So the school building committee, city councilors and school committee members and members of the MEA came to visit the new school last week. And it looks fabulous. It's very exciting. The city posted some photos and it's moving right along. We get the keys April 7th.
You're on track.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that some comments have been, open houses for the community, and I know that we are planning on doing those, and we will let the public know when.
Absolutely. We just want to make sure that we get some of the furniture technology in the building, so it isn't totally empty when we have
Yeah,
people come
and maybe
through.
like parking spaces would be good.
All of that.
So it's coming along. It looks fabulous. It's very exciting. Seeing it finally come to fruition after almost 6 years is really exciting. It's an exciting time for Marlborough, so onward and upward.
And just to clarify, I know there were a lot of questions about the parking, and there's more parking at this
Yep.
school than any other school we have in the system, any other elementary school we have in the system. So
Yep.
And I think the routes for the cars only and the buses only is a big plus too.
Once it gets moving, it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Exciting.
Okay, members forum. Any member wishing to be heard? Now she has something to say.
Well, I'm gonna do a little congratulatory on a great season for the Lady Panther basketball team. Superintendent was in attendance for that game,
What a great game.
and I would be remiss if I didn't say something, only because I think it was great for the community. There were a ton of people there, all in support over at Worcester State. And unfortunately, the girls did not win that game against Medway, but it was really fun to see the excitement of the community behind this team. And I will say, as a parent, it kind of made you really proud, parent and school committee member, it made you proud because not only of how hard these kids were working, but all of the different community members from all kinds of walks of life that were there to support these kids. It was really fabulous to see all along the season, and it kind of grew, and more people along the way. So I just wanted to shout that out. And the end of the month, the high school musical will be taking place. 9 to 5 is the musical. And so instead of telling you on the 24th, which is the same week, I'm going to tell you now so you can put it in your calendars for planning purposes. So it would be Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday matinee, and I think it's like, what is it, 27th, 28th, 29th, something like that. And I'm sure it's going to be an amazing performance, and put it in your calendars, please. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to plug the book fairs because I know there are several coming up in our community. I know Canes is starting on Friday with the family night on the 19th. And Wickham's will be the end of the month leading into our All-City Art Show on April 1st. And I'm sure the other elementary schools are having their book fairs as well. And everybody needs volunteers, so find your coordinators and sign up. Support your book fairs.
And I have reviewed the warrant, and I will be signing it. And I want to remind everybody that Thursday is an early release day.
Thank you. Thursday is an early release day.
And there was no school last Tuesday.
That's right. Exactly.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded. We are adjourned. All those in favor, sorry. All those in favor.
Longest meeting all year.
Thank you.
Thank you.